Ladies and gentlemen of the BRD podcast, the BRD Nation, a huge podcast today with a man that we've literally begged for months to come on this podcast, and he finally consented to come. So we feel very lucky. Mr. Jake Garver, a man of many talents, a man with 10 years of door-to-door experience, a lot to learn from his sales journey, also his management style, and all around just a really fun, high-level dater. And we'll just make this plug really quick. If you're watching and you're like, man, I want to go on a date with that guy, we'll link his number in below right now.
Perfect. That's why I'm on the podcast.
Yeah, dude, we're pushing Garver out.
We'll throw in the Instagram handle.
Yeah, dude.
You got it, dude.
I love it. Well, Jake, seriously, man, thanks for being on.
Yeah, dude. No worries.
Kind of just hopping into it, I think a lot of people could learn a lot from someone that has as much experience as you in door-to-door.
Yep.
I mean, you've done pest control, trash cans, solar.
Yeah.
You've slung just about everything that there is to sling. But kind of walk us through your history a little bit.
Post-Mish, just broke. Signatures, you forgot signatures.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So I got back.
Florida, right?
Florida, but in Utah, my friend was just going door to door selling, like getting signatures for stuff. And you get like $2 a signature. Started doing that, then my cousin was doing pest control, so he got me into that. And summer 2 was trash, service, and then just kept rolling with it, dude.
That's cool. And out of all of those things, like, why did you choose to like get back into pest control or stick with pest?
Dude, pest is just so simple. Like, I have nothing against any other, like, alarms. Like, I like the solar blitzes. Pest is just so simple. Like, you can knock on a door and in 10 minutes have a credit card and sell them. Yeah. And they can get service that same day, and you're getting paid on it.
100%.
Yeah. So I just like the simplicity, and then, like, there's really not much, like, not up to you. Like, it's kind of just all in your hands. Just go out and do it.
That's cool.
So it's fun.
And walk me through, I mean, I guess even a little bit before. So, I mean, you're from, West Haven area?
West Point.
West Point.
Oh, yeah, right.
My
That's
bad,
West Haven. West Point, yeah.
West Point, went up to high school up there.
Yeah.
Wrestled.
Yeah.
Kind of give us a little bit on like the Jake Garver backstory, and then kind of walk me forward into like just give me a little backdrop on like your history kind of leading up to that.
Pretty standard, just like everyone, just growing up sports. So high school did football, wrestling, and track, and then did the mission, and then
I didn't know you did track.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What events?
Just sprints.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the 300 hurdles.
Oh,
Yep.
shit.
I was a hurdler, dude. 5'7" hurdler. Let's go.
That's awesome. And if you had to do any of the just one of those events, would it have been the hurdles?
Yeah, either that or just a 100. It's just such a fun race. Super short, quick.
Yeah. Track's actually something I feel like I missed out in high school.
Really?
I never did it. Yeah, I should have got into it.
Yeah.
Being like a dual sport athlete is big. I feel like I wish I would have played more than just like basketball and soccer. And
it's fun too, just even for like the social effect. Like football season, you hang out with all your football friends, and then like wrestling season, it's like kind of hang out with those groups of guys a lot. And then track is just like chill in general. Like you work hard in track, but like at the meets or like all day, so you just hang out with the whole team. So
yeah.
Like you work hard and do all your events, but like it's also fun to like that just becomes like who your friends are, hang out with and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Cool. So you went from track star, wrestling, mission, selling, and your first year was signatures, or your first?
Just when I was at first year of college, just go to school and go work for 3 hours, get some signatures.
Dude, really?
Yeah, dude.
And like, how many would you typically get in a day?
I honestly don't even know, like, and it wasn't even the whole freshman college year, but I remember like going home, like hang out with my friends like 8 or 9 p.m. Be like, what'd you guys do? I was like, I just made $100. Thought I was like on top of the world. Like, I got $100, baby.
Well, dude, when you come out of the mission and like $100 for me was like, that was, I remember going to Pizza Pie with like $5 and feeling like I was king.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, it's especially when you got like not a bunch, like any money goes a long way.
Yeah. And I guess early on, I mean, obviously in 10 years, you've probably learned a ton of how to increase production, how to recruit, how to sell at a higher level. What were some things that you learned kind of in the beginning parts? What were some like big lessons as like pitch, area management, all that good stuff?
I think for me, like you'll have a lot of people come in, like one guy's just naturally talented, and one guy, like a lot of people just grew up playing sports, so a lot of people like know how to work hard and stuff like that. So first, when I switched from signatures and went out my first summer, I was like, oh, I'm like served a mission. I knocked doors. Like, I'll be fine, because I brought out a couple of friends who were just out of high school.
Your first summer?
Yeah.
Dude, holy cow.
Yeah, dude. And then they were all beating me, and I was like not doing good. So I was like, geez, like it's not just like go grind the doors. So it took me a few weeks, but I just practiced, figure it out. Biggest thing is honestly, like, I was not super confident. Like, if you, like, biggest thing, like, study the pitch just so you can have confidence. But I was just knocking on doors, like, just thinking I could figure it out. And it would come off that I didn't really know what I was talking about. Like, even some people can just go out and do that. But it took me a long time to, like, figure it out.
And a lot of times I think rookies in the beginning think it's a presentation, kind of before you've ever done it. But people, the customer's trying to tear it apart.
Right.
99% of the time.
Yeah.
You're rarely going to get that objectionless pitch where they end up just going with it.
Yeah.
And so I think confidence, the big reason it's so important is because when people start to try to buck you off the saddle, just staying in it and learning like, oh, I'm going to go through this and stuff like that.
Dude, I would have nightmares about getting objections first summer. I was like, frick, dude.
For me, there was a moment when I broke, when I was like, oh, I now get this. Like I can push a little past. How long did it take before you were like, okay, I'm going to push back?
Honestly, it took me like over a month before I was like closing people who were giving me objections and stuff like that. And honestly, like, biggest thing there, like, I wasn't even amazing. And even today, like, I honestly do not feel like I'm an amazing sales rep at like overcoming all these objections and stuff. But a lot of things, if it confidently answer, like, you're going to get some of the sales, you're not going to get some of them. I have no problem with telling people, like, I don't know, and stuff like that. So, like, as long as you're confident with it, but like, oh, I can find this out for you, or like, oh, like, it's no big deal, like, your neighbor had the same question, here's what I told her, blah, blah, blah. So.
And for those watching, he says he's not an incredible sales rep, but he said the same thing to me when we first ever went knocked in Utah, because you were kind of skeptical.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, is this going to work out?
Right.
But you came and shadowed me for a second after you'd already knocked. And then just so everyone knows, I sold like 2 or 3 that morning. We only knocked for like 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
And Jake was at like 4 or 5. I remember being pissed. I'm like, dude, he came and acted like he wasn't. And then he just roasted me.
Yeah. I get crazy objections. Like when people ask like, oh, what do you do in this situation? I'm like, walk away. Like, don't waste an extra 20 minutes.
Well, and I really think there's only 5 main objections that you have to get really, really good at.
Right.
And then there's like 10 subcategory ones that you kind of like, I have a response to those. But beyond 15, that's one of the beautiful things about it is like it feels overwhelming in the beginning, but there's really only 1 pitch, 15 objections, and just some people skills. And you can, you can do like basically anything.
Well, and half the time they are objections, but also like they're legit questions too. So it's like you don't have to panic and like, oh, what does the book say I should say in this? Like a lot of times you just answer the question and then you just move on and talk about more benefits of the pitch, and then at that point they're like, oh, good to go.
Yeah. And I think kind of along with both things we talked about, at the end of the day, you actually are helping them. You're not trying to convince them into something. You're not. I think a lot of times when people think sales guy, they think, oh, dude, who's that Kirby dude on the TV that's selling mattresses?
Right.
And that's what they think sales is. But in reality, it's just plugging up, making sure that they're finding the right stuff that they need.
Yeah. Pretty chill.
So take me through, 10 years is a long time to be out selling. There's got to be a couple crazy stories or two kind of along the way that you're like, oh, that was a funny thing that happened.
Right.
Is there one thing you can pick out and you're like, oh, dude, that busted me up?
I will say, first year, finally got bit by a dog this summer. First time. It's like, gosh dang it, well, I don't even know what it was. It was like white, little some kind of poodle mix, but like this tall, this big. Gosh dang it, it's scarred too, dude.
No way.
Yeah, it's there.
It's a good mark though.
It's a good
10
mark.
years, you got to like have something on the body that.
Oh yeah, I'm like, yeah. So I was finally got some, skin in the game.
And what for you was like a moment when you're like, oh, I feel like my sales took huge strides. Like I got a lot better. Was there like, hey, year 3, this was something that kind of pushed me into being a top performer in my office, or year 4 or 5, like was there something you're like, oh, I went from like 2 or 3 accounts today to like 5 or 6?
Yeah, because honestly, like it wasn't till like summer 5 that I was like even doing like 5 or more a day. And the first summers before that, like I honestly feel like my pitch was like 99% like the exact same. But like summer 5 or something like that, like my brother came out with me. And so it was just kind of like, all right, like I want to teach him. Like I kind of need to be like more confident just to like, not even for my own benefit, just to try and like make sure he has a successful summer and comes out on top. And then like all it was just like a little change in like when you're closing, when you're pitching, just like not being nervous, or like not even like saying things with like a weird word like that makes you sound a little less confident. So that was it. Like honestly, I was just more confident in my close. Or even I think my first couple of years I would oversell a lot. Like, you know, like sometimes when people are just like kind of nodding when you're talking, and then I'm like, oh, I'm only a third away through my pitch, and so you just keep going. Like at that point I would just like try and close them. Yeah. And then they'll say yes, or they'll be like, I'm down, but, and like, what's this question or this objection first? Resolve it, add a little more, and then get the close. So
love it. The first thing you said that I really liked that I think people should grab to is bringing out someone.
Oh, dude.
It's gonna double your sales.
Yeah.
Just because you're responsible when you don't want to work and other things like that, there's a constant reminder of like, hey, I love this person and I gotta make this work for them.
Oh yeah. I honestly like, it'd be harder for me to like leave the state and just join like a random team. Like mentally that'd be tough, but like first summer I had a couple friends, second I had a friend, third I had a friend, and then fourth summer was with my brother. And so it's like you're with a friend, but also like there was days like my brother would beat me, and dude, you're like, oh man. So we're working till 9:30, 10 o'clock those nights, just like trying to like get him.
Yeah.
So it's fun with a friend because you're like friends, but you get to have that competition, someone to chase.
Yeah, you're like, the Karate Kid's not going to beat Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
You like wax on and wax off, bro.
Yeah. This year with Stockton, he was my nemesis / best friend in the summer, like just going head to head all the time.
Well, and what's awesome about that is it just elevates you so fast.
Oh, yeah.
And then someone like Stockton, I love being around him just because he's going to push you to, like, wherever his level's at, you're like, oh, dude, I don't want to lose to the rookie that's just coming out with a ton.
Well, yeah. It's fun, too, when, like, you have someone who you're going, like, chasing or, like, you just, like, want to, like, do as good as them when you both have, like, totally different pitches or, like, pitch very differently. Like, I honestly, like, when you do a training or I do a training, and then, like, the reps would be like, oh, but, like, Dawson says this. And I'm like, say that. Like, honestly, like, you and I have very, I wouldn't say different pitches. We say similar stuff, but, like,
yeah,
I feel like they're more different than people would think.
Well, and if you're starting out, it's so good to have multiple high-level performers that can teach you it in a different way because you'll find your way.
Right.
And I think you should mimic someone in the beginning and just be like, hey, how do they say this? But once you get right around to like a certain level where you want to be, in order to get way better, you have to implement a couple other people.
Oh, yeah. And I'd echo that. Like, your first 2 to 3 weeks, like, honestly, I would just say copy someone like to a T. And then, like, after you've done the pitch 1,000 times, then start, like, changing it to, like, more your personality. But I think the biggest thing at the start, like, you know nothing about pest control. Pest control is not new. It's been around for how many years? Like, people know how to sell it. So, yeah, the first start, I'd agree. Just copy someone to a T.
Yeah.
Their pitch.
With, like, your start, and who was kind of the first mentor for you that pushed you to sell better? Like, who was the first person you're like, oh, man, that person took me under their wing, and I learned a ton?
Yeah. Probably just first summer, I was with my cousin, And so I had my two friends, and then, but like towards the end, started like getting a little better and stuff. And well, obviously he's your cousin, so like he was willing to like help me out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also like, you're like, oh man, it'd be sick to like try and like start doing better than him 3 days a week, or like, you know what I mean? So he was like a good one to like start chasing stuff like that. And then almost every summer you kind of like, you have someone where you kind of like become like, oh, like I don't want to lose to them.
Yeah, like I hope he's at 2 on the leaderboard and when I'm at 12.
Yeah,
yeah.
Makes you like get out a little earlier in the day, stay out a little longer.
Well, and one of the things just about you in the past couple summers I see, after the morning meeting, you dart out quick.
Yeah.
You're in area, and I think a lot of times people don't realize how big just like eating that frog in the morning is to like the rest of your day. Because if you get that 1 or 2 sales in your belt, everyone's felt that feeling of, dude, I'm fine. Like, but like sometimes I would be getting in my car and I'm like, dude, Garver's only at 2. I'm like, But kind of, when did you decide to do that? Was that from the first year? Like you were like, oh, dude, I'm the first one to leave the meeting, or was that kind of like later?
Well, I do think like a couple summers, like that was just like where we were, like the way the meeting was, like just like from the meeting, we all just go straight out together, just so like people aren't hanging around. So then it was just like kind of like habit, like as soon as the meeting's over, kind of like give a high five, a little hoorah, and just get out. Mm-hmm. But then it turned into like all right, I have goals, and then sometimes you get like a little bit anxious about goals and stuff like that. So usually until I have a sale for that day, like till I wake up, I'm like a little bit like, like I got to get this first sale, something like that. So if you ever like wake up to someone like text you like, oh, like so sorry we don't want yesterday, can we still get that discount? You're like a lot more calm. Like I love those, dude.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of impressed every time, like how quickly you're able. You still give people area. It doesn't feel like you just like run out, but I guess these motivations of like, hey, just anxiety of like, hey, I gotta get out there and make it happen,
right?
Hit my goal. That's cool. I was always wondering that. I'm like, dude, no time. You make sure to get out there and make it happen.
Yeah.
Kind of talk to me on like, I guess area management and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You've gotten really good over the years of staying in one spot. And I think a lot of times people hear that when they're first coming in. They're like, oh, it's just what they're telling me.
Right.
Oh, they just want me to stay in one area for a while.
Yeah.
When did you buy into that? And when did you see the fruits of being like, hey, I'm going to sit in an area for a minute?
Yeah. Biggest things are like when I started getting better at like using like bandwagon closes and like strongly believe you can sell anywhere, like any income of neighborhoods, like it doesn't really matter. But I would feel a lot more confident when like, oh, like I'm in a neighborhood, I know 20 people by name, like I sold them. And then also like almost every state, even like per city, like the bugs are a little bit different.
Yeah.
So like you can, like I would just have more confidence, like, oh, like I already know like exactly what's here. Cause like even like when I go to a new area, like a whole new city, like usually like my first couple of doors, like I'm trying to pitch them, but also like, if they're telling me no, I'm like, all right, like, do me a favor, like, here's my little bug list. Like, what do you guys get out here in random city here? Because they're probably a little bit different here.
Yeah.
And then every time, like, I'll be like, is it mainly just ants, spiders, wasps, or is there something random? And then there's always something random. Like, oh, man, these ones. And then you're like, probably should have sold you. Tell me about this.
But what I don't think people understand when just listening to that on first listen mm-hmm. is you're not as much canvassing the area as you're like trying to find the momentum there. I mean, as long as you've sold now, there have to have been some moments that we were like, oh, I was kind of in like a Zen state when it was like things were really flowing, going really good in my area. And obviously there's some lows too.
Right.
But can you think back on like, oh, when I was in that city or I was in this area at that time of my life, I was selling at a higher level, and then talk to me about the things around that you were doing that kind of impacted your success.
Mm-hmm. I feel like last couple of summers here in Utah, like the first couple months, like have just gone really good and smooth, but it's kind of just been like, haven't like switched up much, like just kind of stuck to the routine, like wake up, sell. I would always do like I do like motivational videos and I'll still do them every once in a while. But I like I don't even know if it's a saying, but like discipline is better than motivation. Mm-hmm. Just because like I just have like the hours I work set, like no matter what every day, like I just knock from this time to this time. It's kind of a non-negotiable. That way it's like my friends know that, my people I live with, my family, so it's like people know like I'm working then. And so you don't have to like fight it every single day, but I do think those help. Just like if you're on the doors for 8-9 hours a day talking to enough people, even if you're like having a bad day, like you're still gonna find enough people interested. So it's usually like when I talk to reps, it's like, oh, like I did this, like let's see how many doors you knocked, and that usually plays a part because if you knock enough doors, talk to enough people, and are getting better every day at your pitch, you can get some deals.
I love that. Well, it's two-part. It's like a numbers game, which a lot of people turn that off. I think that's one thing that makes me really sad is a lot of people stop playing that, and they're like, why isn't this going well? Why can't I sell? And it's like that has to be on. And then the other part is like you have to be in the right place.
Right.
You have to follow your schedule. You have to be in a good emotional, mental state to sell at a good level. Mm-hmm. And I think just setting those boundaries too with your family and friends, being like, hey, this is what I've got to do.
Yeah.
Is so important. And I think it goes just as important with the sales team. A lot of times people want to hold you to who you were on like, oh, hey, well, we used to go get shakes every night.
Right.
But you're like, hey, like in order for me to level up or go to a new place, I've got to start doing this.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is as soon as you start implementing those small things, it changes so quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden you will see, oh, I am getting one more sale a day.
Yeah.
And you hear that and you're like, oh, it's just one. But you compound that over a whole summer, it's 100 more sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it goes with like, my friend was asking me this the other day who doesn't do summer sales. And he's like, so how much is like just grinding it and like talk to as many people as possible and like versus like becoming a better salesman? And I think at the start, like the number one thing you need for summer sales is being able to work the hours. That's step one.
Yeah.
But like I would argue like as long as you're knocking the doors, like even bigger is like becoming a better salesman. And it's not like crazy hard. Like all you do is just go role play with your manager, like practice in the mirror, read a book. And then if you're doing something every day for like the first summer, like you're just picking up stuff that you've read, like, oh, I'll try that. And you just get way better.
What are some of the greatest reads you've picked up over the years?
Dude, I'm not the best guy to ask there. I mean, my manual from the first summer. I've read like I've done like motivational books and stuff like that I've really liked.
Yeah.
But I'm actually listening to Door to Door Millionaire right now for the first time ever. I was like, I need to
let's go
pick up some nuggets, dude.
No, that's a great book. But I think one thing that you can kind of pick up too, just listening to that, is you don't need a massive amount of information. You just need to be really disciplined with the information that you have been given.
Yep.
Everyone wants like something crazy. And honestly, I'm going to make another Karate Kid reference. But
let's go.
Like I love in that movie how simple he's like wax on, wax off. And he's like he's like do that along the whole fence. And people don't want to hear like, hey, it's just getting really, really good at these like 5 or 6 basic things.
Oh, right.
But that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so like if you have like the script printed out and you're just like reading it, what does it take? Like 3 minutes to read? Like if you're pitching someone, a whole process can take, I mean, anywhere from 5 to like 15 minutes. But like it's not that much. So it's just like, just memorize like, or not even memorize, but like just know that information. It's simple, and then just get really good at it.
Well, and be willing to be taught. Because like it sounds so funny. That's like it's 3 minutes of what you need to memorize. But like so many kids are like, well, I like how this sounds.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I mean, you can use the 10, 15, 20 plus years of my experience, plus what all the people that I leaned on their shoulders for. Like, don't reinvent the wheel before you're like, you've mastered the basics.
Right.
So, cool. If you had to say to like outside of like summer sales, just like this world, who's been someone that you're like, oh, they made me a better salesman?
Yeah.
Like, was there someone outside of it that you're like, oh, their influence really affected my sales game, and this is how?
I mean, biggest thing is just like friends on the team or like people you're selling stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like the worst is almost every, even to this day, like, I know all the time randomly my dad's going to shoot me a text like, how many did you get today?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just like always in that, like in the back of my mind, like, dude, I'm having a slow day. What if my dad texts me today? He's like, because he's not a salesman. Like, he's never does any sales or anything. But like, he pushes me a lot just like on the motivation side. So like that helps a lot. It's like, oh, like I'm pretty vocal. Like my family and my friends kind of know what I do. And a lot of times they're like, oh, like how's your summer going? Like this and that. And so I know I'm like getting like checked up on all the time. And then within like the team and stuff, there's always that you're held accountable. Like if you do numbers every day, like what people got on sales the day before and stuff. Like I just hate like, oh, like when someone comes up like, what happened, dude? You had a slow day yesterday. Like, oh, dude, that's the worst.
Well, and one thing that I just thought of as you were talking about that, your phone is an extension of you, and you need like people like your dad that are sending in those positive messages like constantly throughout the summer. It's a tough thing to do, but I think too, getting really good at noticing who are the negative, like who are the people that are kind of dragging me out or are negatively impacting my sales.
Yeah.
During the summer, it's really turning that off of being like, hey, I'm not gonna like. It's not that I'm not gonna associate with that person, but I'm gonna wheel it back a little bit during these hours. I'm gonna kind of go through, and then if someone's gassing me up, like, hey, you can do it, you're awesome, like, that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
My little brother Garrett, he would always like he was probably, I mean, he was junior high and high school most of the time when I was out selling.
Yeah.
But he would like text me like, love you, you're the best ever. Like 10 sales today.
Yeah.
And then I'd call and he'd be like, hey, how many did you get? I'm like, oh, I got like 7. He's like, dude, you only got 7 today? Yeah. And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, for me, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I always love when people too, like that haven't ever sold, that you tell them how many you got. And like you feel good and they're like, maybe you should pick it up.
Yeah, pick it up, dude.
You're like, oh, dude, I was giving it my all.
Yeah.
If you could start all over again from the very beginning of your sales journey, what's some things you'd do different?
If I were to go back in time, I would like, in all honesty, like the first 5-6 years, like every summer was going to be my last summer. So every summer I would go in like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like I would recruit one friend or something just to come with me, so I'm not like alone out there. And then I would just like go sell, and then that was it. But like if I could go back in time, I would stick with it, sell as many as possible, try and get as many people as possible to come do it with me. Kind of like either try and build a team or just have some recruits. So, but it was just hard when I was doing it that way, I was even like switching companies. It's like, oh, like who's gonna let me like do this and X like on my terms? And then so every year was like, oh, like here's like my little goal, just to go out for 3 months, just bam, bam, bam. So I would definitely like, if you're gonna do it, like it helps. You can almost like 2x, because I feel like rookie to second year, like a lot of people, like even if they have a good rookie year, like double how much money they make.
Yeah. Well, you're just going with so much more experience.
Right.
And that's the thing about jobs or working is it's really not like there is no silver bullet. It's just being disciplined, building that like compounding interest that comes naturally through just putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort. That's cool. That's I hope people were listening to like that part of like just being like, hey, it's like it's important to build kind of where you're at. Kind of just like, I mean, I guess kind of more like wrapping it up and stuff. Looking into the future, like just kind of out, what's some things that you're like, oh, like this is something that I want to change big this year in order to like what's some things you're like going into this next summer, you're like, this is something I'm going to do to like up level my game. Is there anything that you're like, oh, like I feel like New Year's is here, so it's like that time. What's something you're like, oh, this is on the docket, or this is something I'm going to change in 2024?
Yeah. I mean, kind of like little things, because like even going into this summer, like I know exactly, like you can almost do the math, like figure out how many doors I'm going to knock in the summer and stuff like that. But like just little things to try and like just get prepared for, like, oh, like I want to get this new iPad, like have this Segway ready, like I want to like get some friends, like some recruits, like not just to like build a team, but like because they hold you accountable, stuff like that. Yeah, honestly, just mindset, right? Just ready to go for it, because definitely like right now, just getting a break, just
relaxing. No, it's
Yeah.
important to relax during
It
the off
is,
season,
yeah.
dude. Like you need time off to kind of go back and make it happen.
Yeah.
I need to plan a vacation. I need to do something fun.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah, we should go to Mexico or something.
Yeah. Down.
Kind of just a compliment to you. Every summer that that we've worked together, I've seen you have something you're chasing. Like it'll be June and you'll be like, yeah, dude, I gotta end the summer with X amount of accounts so I can get this house. And I think going into your first summer with that knowledge of being like, hey, have something like tangible that you are actually working for.
Yeah.
So like if you're listening to this for the first, like in your first summer, second, or even if it's like something you haven't done in your fourth and your fifth, I think having that on the outset of like, oh, I need 2 homes, or I need like this to kind of like launch this capital and something like that. And then going backwards and like, cause you always, whenever we talk, you're like, this is how many accounts I need for this like thing. And I think people listening, if they can kind of catch that same vision of like, hey, what's my bigger purpose? How many accounts like do I need to go achieve that? And just use the vehicle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And even like I like doing like in the summer, like vision boards just on like my phone wallpaper and stuff. Or like I still like in my notes app for every door, every day I've ever knocked, I have like, I'll do like week 1 and I'll have like how many sales I got every single day. So it's fun to like look back like, oh, this day on my 3rd summer I got 3 sales or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like keeps it like almost a journal too.
Yeah, little journal. And then I actually still do it where I'll set myself like little like incentives just for myself. Like, oh, if I get X amount of sales like this week, like not even a super high number, just like a good week, like I'll earn myself like this. And they're usually like $30 things, but like those little things like for some reason like motivate me a lot. Like, because sometimes when you're like working, you're like, oh, like I made a lot of money today, I got a lot of sales, but then you're like, oh, but if I get X amount more, like then I earned it, I get to buy this thing that I've wanted for a long time, but isn't necessarily like essential or needed.
Well, and sales requires a high level of creativity.
Yeah.
To be a good sales leader, to be a good sales rep, like it requires a lot of like time and energy and stuff like that. And one thing that I love about that is like it also takes you have to kind of leave the sales world to come back to it and perform at a high level. And I think like having things like that, it makes the journey so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Oh, like I'm gonna reward myself, like and kind of like I think it's just good for your mind all the way around.
Yeah.
And then one thing that I think you're good at during the whole like you're good at not getting like I think you're always very, very focused, but you don't get like lost in it. I think a lot of guys can get like too involved or too close to their situation. They're like, why am I not performing well? It's because at the end of the day, summer sales isn't meant to be your like whole entire life.
Yeah.
Like it's just like in sports psychology. Like in order to be a great athlete, you have to be able to go away a little bit, and then perform at a high level. So I learned a lot. This was a cool pod. Thanks so much for being on. Is there anything else you want to leave everybody with before we hop off?
Just have fun with it. Like honestly, like even still, like knocking doors, like you meet so many cool people. Like you can make a lot of fun, like riding a Segway, just talking to strangers all day. So it can be like you get a lot of like you can have a lot of fun with it too, not just grinding doors all day.
Love that. Sick. Garv, thanks for having you on, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yep. We're out.